Have you ever looked at someone and instantly known what they were feeling, even when their words said something else? You see the way their smile doesn't reach their eyes, the way their voice hesitates before pretending everything is fine. You feel the sadness they bury beneath small talk, the fear behind their confidence. It's like hearing the emotional echo of every person you meet. People call it empathy, a beautiful thing. But they never tell you about the ache that comes with it. The exhaustion, the loneliness of seeing through illusions that others still believe in. Because when you can see the truth behind people's masks, you stop belonging to their world of pretending. You begin to walk a quieter path, one that few can follow. And that path begins with the simple, painful realization: you can't unsee what you've already seen. Society is a stage. Everyone knows their lines, even if they never remember learning them. You ask, "How are you?" They say, "I'm fine." And both of you nod, as if truth has just been spoken. But you see the tremble in their eyes. You notice how their laughter lands half a second too late. You feel the tension in their shoulders when they say, "It's all good." It's not that people are dishonest. It's that we've all agreed to perform. Life has become a collective play, and everyone is afraid to forget their role. You begin to notice it everywhere, the choreography of pretending. The small pauses that hide sadness, the bright tones that disguise emptiness, the practiced nods of interest that no longer reach the eyes. The world hums with performance. People don't talk to connect. They talk to maintain the illusion of connection. Every housework, "and we should catch up sometime," is a line rehearsed thousands of times, spoken not from the heart, but from habit. It's a delicate balance. If everyone keeps pretending, the play feels stable. But if one person slips, even slightly, the entire illusion trembles. You see through it all, and suddenly the world feels transparent, almost fragile. You walk down the street and notice faces, each one wearing a different mask. Confidence, charm, indifference, control. They all shimmer under the sunlight like porcelain, but you can sense what's underneath: the fear of being unmasked. It's almost unbearable, this kind of vision. You see that no one is truly cruel, only terrified. You realize that most of what we call personality is self-defense, built layer by layer over years of quiet pain. And when you know this, you can no longer take the theater seriously. The applause sounds hollow. The lights feel too bright. The costumes, once beautiful, now look like cages. At first, you try to play along. You smile when you're supposed to, laugh when the script demands it, but inside you feel the dissonance. There's a silent question haunting every interaction. Do they see me, or just the version of me that fits their story? You start to realize how much energy is spent maintaining these masks. The world seems noisy, exhausting, not because of chaos, but because of pretense. You crave authenticity the way a drowning person craves air. When you stop pretending, when you begin to speak or act from truth, the people around you grow uneasy. Your honesty becomes a mirror they didn't ask for. It starts subtly. Someone laughs awkwardly when you answer honestly instead of politely. Another changes the subject when you name the tension in the room. They say things like, "You think too much," or "You're too sensitive." But what they really mean is, "Please don't break the spell." Because if you stop acting, they might have to as well. You begin to understand why prophets were mocked, why artists were exiled, why truth-tellers always sound unsettling. They're not punished for being wrong. They're punished for seeing too clearly. You wish you could unsee it, to go back to the comfortable blindness of small talk and social rhythm. But once you've glimpsed the machinery behind the curtain, you can't return to pretending. You stand in the middle of conversations and feel like an outsider in a play everyone else has agreed to continue. You start hearing silence beneath words, heaviness behind laughter, loneliness hiding inside crowds. And the strangest part is people can feel that you see them. They don't know how, but they sense it. Their eyes dart away. Their smiles tighten. Your presence becomes too honest for comfort. It isn't judgment you carry, but awareness, a kind that sees the beauty and the pain simultaneously. You see the desperate longing behind arrogance, the childhood wounds behind cruelty, the tenderness trapped inside anger. It should make you compassionate, and sometimes it does. But compassion has a cost. It's heavy to carry so many truths that no one speaks aloud. You begin to feel like a silent observer in a world addicted to noise. The one person who remembers that it's all just a play. And the longer you see through it, the harder it becomes to keep pretending that you don't. This is the first danger of sensitivity. Not that you feel too much, but that you see too clearly. And once you see, you can no longer unsee. You start to disappear, not dramatically, not with any announcement, but quietly, almost politely. One day, you decline an invitation. The next, you stop replying to group chats, and soon you find that silence feels safer than company. It's not that you hate people, it's that your nervous system has become an open door. Every emotion walks in without knocking. You feel what others suppress. Their anxiety, their disappointment, their hunger for validation. It all arrives like background noise you can't turn off. Crowds drain you. Conversations leave you hollow. The world becomes too loud for someone who hears not just words, but everything between them. At first, you think something's wrong with you. You tell yourself you're being antisocial, dramatic, too sensitive. So you try harder, attend gatherings, make small talk, force smiles. But every time you do, you leave with a quiet ache, like you've betrayed yourself just to keep existing in the play. Eventually, you stop forcing it. You start choosing solitude, not out of bitterness, but out of self-preservation. Solitude becomes the only place where you, Dan, T, have to filter or absorb anyone else's storm. It's the only space where you can hear your own heart beat again. People notice, of course. They call it withdrawal. They say, "You've changed," or "You're too quiet lately." But how do you explain to them that silence has become your oxygen? That you can't breathe in a world that's always shouting? You can't tell them that every casual interaction feels like a psychic exchange, that every room holds an invisible weight you end up carrying home. So you say nothing. You smile gently, excuse yourself, and vanish a little further into stillness. There's a kind of peace in disappearing. The noise fades. The masks dissolve. For the first time, you begin to feel what is yours and what isn't. You sit in quiet rooms, listening to the hum of the refrigerator, the rustle of wind, the small sounds that used to be drowned by other people's chaos. And in that stillness, something shifts. You realize you've spent most of your life being available to everyone but yourself. You've been a mirror for others' pain, a vessel for emotions that were never yours to keep. But withdrawal isn't escape, it's recovery. It's the necessary cocoon between the world's chaos and your own clarity. Inside it, you learn the sacred art of boundaries, how to feel deeply without dissolving, how to love without losing yourself. The world may call it loneliness, but you begin to sense its real name, restoration. You're not running from life. You're learning how to return to it, lighter, clearer, and no longer carrying what was never yours. So you retreat into your own silence, and for the first time, you begin to understand it. It's not an emptiness, not a void, but a space that holds everything gently. In solitude, the noise of the world fades, and what remains is the quiet pulse of your own awareness. You sit by a window, watching sunlight move across the floor, and realize that this simplicity, this stillness, has more truth in it than 1,000 conversations. You start to see how silence heals what noise never could. You breathe, and the air feels heavier, fuller, as if each breath carries a fragment of peace. The first weeks of solitude feel strange. You expect loneliness to come like a storm, but instead, it arrives as a gentle visitor. It sits beside you without demanding attention. It doesn't need to be fixed or escaped. It simply asks to be felt. You begin to understand that loneliness is not your enemy. It asks the shadow of your own depth. You had spent years running from yourself, filling every moment with the company of others, unaware that what you truly feared was meeting your own reflection. Now, in the stillness, that reflection speaks softly. It says, "You're safe here." You can stop absorbing everything that isn't yours. You notice how your sensitivity starts to change shape. It's no longer a flood that overwhelms you. It becomes a river that flows through you. You begin to let emotions move instead of holding them. You no longer cling to sadness, nor fight joy when it arrives. Every feeling becomes a guest, passing through your awareness without leaving residue. You stop judging the weather of your heart. You simply let it rain when it rains and shine when it shines. In this, you discover a freedom that has nothing to do with control, the freedom of allowing. In solitude, compassion matures. You start to see that you cannot save people from themselves, just as no one could save you from your own illusions. You remember how much you used to suffer from trying to rescue everyone, mistaking empathy for obligation. Now you understand that real love is spacious. It allows others to find their own timing, their own awakening. You can still feel their pain, but you no longer confuse it with your duty to fix it. And slowly, sensitivity transforms into wisdom. You realize you can still walk into the same world, still see through the same masks, but now without drowning. You can touch the pain of others and still remain centered. You can stand in a storm and still be the calm within it. Solitude was never about running away. It was about remembering how to be present without losing yourself. You are no longer the sponge that absorbs. You are the river that carries and lets go. And in that flow, you find peace not as a destination, but as your natural state. With time, silence begins to teach you truths no voice could ever convey. It teaches you that every light casts a shadow, that sensitivity is not weakness, but perception sharpened to its purest form. And in that awareness, you begin to see the paradoxes, the subtle truths that hold your awakening together. You realize that to live deeply is to live with contradiction, to see the pain and the beauty as two sides of the same flame. You feel everything, yet you must not absorb everything. The world's emotions still reach you, but they no longer define you. You learn the art of remaining open without being emptied. You see through people, but you must still love them, not because they deserve it, but because love is the only lens clear enough to see the truth without breaking. You sense when someone is lying, pretending, hiding, yet you stay kind, not because you agree, but because you understand. You understand that pretending is not evil, it's survival. You sense truth, but you must not always speak it. You learn that timing is sacred, that truth shouted too soon can wound deeper than a lie. So you start to speak less, not out of fear, but out of reverence for silence. Words become instruments, not weapons. You use them like music, carefully, gently, leaving space between each note. You know now that sometimes silence says more than speech ever could. You know the pain, but you must not become it. Once you carried the world's sorrow like a second skin. Now you let it pass through you. You sit with pain the way you'd sit beside a grieving friend, quietly, compassionately, without trying to erase it. You realize that healing isn't removing the darkness. It's learning to hold the candle inside it. And so, pain becomes your teacher, not your master. You walk alone, yet you're never truly alone. The solitude that once felt like exile now feels like communion. You sense the quiet presence of something larger, not a person, not a deity, but awareness itself breathing through you. You start to feel connected to everything, the wind through trees, the hum of the refrigerator, the heartbeat in your chest, all of it part of the same vast intelligence. You smile at strangers without needing words, and sometimes you catch a glimpse in their eyes that they recognize it too. That silent knowing. These are the paradoxes of the sensitive soul. To feel everything, yet stay peaceful. To see through illusions, yet keep loving. To walk alone, yet feel one with all things. The gift was never the ability to feel. It was the ability to stay open after feeling too much. The real power was never in protecting yourself from pain, but in remaining tender despite it. And as you breathe in this truth, the world doesn't feel heavy anymore. It feels human, raw, alive. You have not lost your sensitivity. You have simply remembered how to carry it with grace. You start to live differently now. There is a softness to your steps, a lightness in your presence that wasn't there before. The world hasn't changed. It's still noisy, still full of masks and performances. But your relationship with it has transformed. You no longer feel the need to protect yourself from everything. You walk through life as if through water, aware of the current, but no longer fighting it. You have learned what it means to play lightly. You realize that sensitivity is not about absorbing energy. It's about moving with it. When someone's anger rises, you no longer take it personally. You simply let it pass like thunder. When someone's joy spills over, you allow it to touch you without clinging. You are still feeling, still alive, but you don't get trapped in the emotional tides. You have discovered the art of staying porous, yet grounded, like a window open to the wind, but rooted firmly in its frame. Conversations no longer exhaust you. You no longer perform, but you also no longer rebel. You can join the play without believing it's real. When someone wears a mask, you smile with compassion, not pity, not superiority, but understanding. You know that everyone is doing their best to protect their own fragility. You too wear small masks sometimes, but now you wear them consciously. Like costumes in a game, you no longer confuse with truth. This is the light touch, full participation, zero attachment. You find beauty in simple things, the sound of rain against glass, the way sunlight scatters across a table, the quiet between two breaths. Where once you felt overwhelmed by existence, now you are enchanted by it. You understand that being alive doesn't mean constantly analyzing or protecting. It means experiencing. The world has not become less intense. You have simply stopped resisting its intensity. Life is no longer something happening to you. It is something flowing through you. The people who once drained you now appear differently. You see their pain, but you also see their light. You no longer mistake compassion for obligation. You can listen deeply without carrying their sorrow home. You can walk beside someone through darkness without losing your own inner flame. That is what maturity feels like. Not hardness, but clarity. There's a moment one evening when you catch your reflection in a window. You recognize yourself, but lighter, freer. Your eyes no longer carry the weight of all the feelings you've absorbed. They shine with quiet knowing. You realize that nothing about the world has to change for you to be at peace. What changed was the way you play, okay? You stopped trying to fix the script or rewrite others' lines. You simply learned how to stay awake in the theater, to laugh, to cry, to love, while remembering that it's all part of the same beautiful play. And in that remembrance, you find something even deeper than peace. You find joy, the soft, silent kind that doesn't need to be seen to be real. When you finally return to the world, it's not as the same person who once felt crushed by its weight. You come back quietly, without announcement, carrying the kind of calm that doesn't need to be proven. You walk through the same streets, past the same people. Hear the same laughter and small talk, but everything feels different. The noise no longer penetrates. It dances around you like wind through tall grass. You have become what mystics call the border dweller, someone who belongs to both worlds. Now you can look at people again, really look without judgment or exhaustion. You still see through their masks, but instead of sorrow, you feel compassion. You no longer wish to change them because you see the rhythm of their unfolding. Everyone wakes up at their own pace. Everyone has their own lessons to learn. You begin to understand that love isn't about interference. It's about presence. When you are truly present, you don't have to speak wisdom. Your being becomes it. You move through life like a quiet flame, gentle but unwavering. You speak only when necessary, and your words carry a softness that makes people listen differently. You've stopped trying to convince anyone of anything. You've stopped defending your sensitivity or explaining your boundaries. You no longer translate your depth for those who haven't learned the language of silence. Instead, you let your calm be the translation. And strangely, the more silent you become, the more others feel seen. Sometimes, people come to you without knowing why. They talk about their fears, their doubts, their pain. You don't give them advice. You just listen, fully, attentively, without agenda. And in that listening, something happens. They begin to hear themselves. That's the paradox of awakening. Once you stop trying to save others, your mere presence starts to help them. Not because you give them answers, but because you remind them they already have them. You begin to play your role differently now. You work, love, create, not to achieve or prove, but to express what life is showing through you. There's effort, but no strain. There's passion, but no desperation. You've learned the rhythm of flow, when to act and when to rest, when to speak and when to let silence speak for you. You are no longer the actor lost in the play. You are the stage, the light, and the audience, all at once. At night, when you sit alone again, not lonely, but full, you realize that sensitivity was never a curse. It was an invitation to see deeper, to feel fuller, to wake up. You smile at the thought that life never wanted to break you. It only wanted to open you. You are the same person who once saw through everyone, but now you see through yourself too. The world no longer feels like a wound to survive. It feels like a song, imperfect, fleeting, but profoundly beautiful. And at last, you know how to listen. There comes a moment when everything that once felt fragmented begins to fall into place. The silence that once felt empty now feels alive, not quiet, but full of presence. You realize that awakening was never about escaping the world. It was about learning how to stand within it without losing your center. You can finally move through life without armor, because you understand now that the only real protection is awareness itself. Awareness doesn't block life, it lets it flow through you. It's not about building walls, but becoming transparent enough that nothing sticks. Praise or blame, love or loss, joy or sorrow. Everything passes through, and yet, somehow, nothing is lost. You find yourself laughing more easily, not because life has become lighter, but because you no longer take its heaviness personally. You've stopped trying to hold the universe in your hands. You let it dance around you instead. What used to feel like chaos now feels like rhythm. Every event, every person, every challenge carries a subtle music that you can hear now. Because you've stopped covering your ears with control. You live with what the sages called a soft gaze, engaged but ungrasping. The world moves through you, and you move through it, like waves passing through water. When pain visits, you no longer resist it. You sit with it, breathe with it, let it teach you. You understand that suffering was never punishment. It was misunderstanding. Pain was never meant to break you, only to carve space for greater love. You meet each difficulty with curiosity now. What is life trying to show me here? And somehow, even in heartbreak, you find a strange beauty because you know the hand that wounds is the same one that heals. You start to sense that life is not happening to you. It's happening as you. The boundaries blur between self and everything else. You look at a tree and feel your own breath mirrored in its leaves. You hear someone laugh across the street and feel the same joy echo in your chest. You realize that separation was always an illusion maintained by fear. The truth is simpler, quieter. Everything is one movement, one awareness, one continuous unfolding. From this place, you live not to teach, not to prove, but simply to express. You work with joy, not ambition. You love without possession. You speak without trying to convince. You act without trying to control the outcome. You move through life as an artist of presence, turning even the ordinary into something sacred. The sensitive soul that once carried the world as pain has become the clear mirror that reflects its beauty. And so you walk on, a little slower, a little softer. You understand now that the purpose of seeing through people was never to expose them. It was to see through the illusion of separateness itself. You no longer stand outside the play, analyzing it. You're dancing in it again, freely, consciously, joyfully. And as you do, the world seems to dance with you, as if it too has been waiting for you to remember the simple truth that everything you see, everything you feel, and everything you love was never outside of you at all. Have you ever felt it, that strange ache of seeing too much? The moment you realize you can read what others hide, and it both connects you and isolates you at the same time. Maybe you've walked into a room and sensed the emotions no one dared to name. Maybe you've carried the weight of feelings that were never yours. If you have, then you know the hidden cost of sensitivity, the beauty and the burden of seeing the truth behind every smile. Tell me, how do you live with it? Do you see your sensitivity as a gift or as a wound that never quite heals? I want to hear your story, the one you never tell out loud. Leave it below, not as a comment to a video, but as a whisper into a room of others who understand. Because here, in the silent stage, you don't have to perform. You don't have to pretend. You can simply be seen, quietly, honestly, and completely. And maybe, in that silence, someone else will finally feel a little less alone.